Hi, it's Tessa. I'm back with the sixth and final part of my series on sleep, Zzzzz Lowdown on sleep. So, first, I want to say that I took some of the things I learned. I just really just one thing because, like I said, I don't think it's good to try to change everything at first, but this was really big for me is obviously I went to bed pretty late like usual, and when I woke up like usual, I did something differently, which was not picking up my phone to see what time it was. I mean, it was still pretty dark, and it was I don't know when it was because I didn't look, and I just told myself like, hey, just go back to sleep. You need to go back to sleep, and it. I thought at first it was going to take a while, but I don't think it did. I was probably asleep, less than a minute. So that was pretty cool. And then I didn't wake up until 9:44. I looked at the clock and it was 9:44, which okay, for me that is huge. That's very much sleeping in, and I had unfortunately, I have to tell you that I probably didn't go to bed till after 1. I can't really remember, but I was up too late, very late. But, just taking that one tip was beneficial because I felt really great. I felt fine all day, felt good, and there's no way I probably would have slept past maybe 6, even though I went to bed at 1 because that's just when I wake up and I have this thing where I can't fall back asleep if I wake up after maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. So anyway, I did want to share that because that was pretty cool, and that's why I'm doing this whole thing. That's why I started learning about it because I just knew that I needed more sleep. I wasn't doing something right. So anyway, so I'm just wrapping it up. I'm going to try to be brief tonight because I really want to go to bed, and I just learned some interesting things while I was doing all the research. And I'm purposely not calling them facts because we all know that just because you read it on the internet or hear it on Facebook or read it on Facebook doesn't make it a fact, doesn't make it true. So I'm not saying these things, any of them are true. They are just things that I thought were interesting and, worth a share. So I'm going to try to go through them pretty quick. Like some are going to be actually really helpful and some are not. Some are just kind of interesting. So I'm going to start with the ones that aren't really helpful, and then I'll wrap it up with the ones that I thought actually are helpful. So the first that I thought was so cool. This is actually, in my opinion, the most interesting thing I learned. So I'm going to talk the longest about it. Is that our ancestors, people until really maybe the late 1700s, this was really common. They used to do a two sleep cycle. So the total amount that they would end up, the length of it was a little bit longer, but they would go to bed for a few hours and then they would be up for a few hours and then they would go back to bed. And in between those 2 or 3 hours, they would read, do quiet things. They might talk. Some people would even leave the house and visit with people, and they'd study or pray, and then they'd go back to sleep. And so I thought that was really interesting. And then, when electricity came around, it started dwindling the practice. And then by 1920, people weren't really doing it. Although I guess they did a study on it, and they found that it was no really less effective or more effective, and that I guess some people sort of purposely do it today. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Another number two was that, and this will be no surprise to anybody who's raised a baby, but that within the first 2 years of your baby's life, that you're actually losing about 6 months, a total of 6 months of sleep. And I heard different estimates. Like I said, this is not factual, but I thought that was kind of interesting because it's something we kind of all know. But, when you hear that number, you really think, wow, okay, that is a lot. No, no wonder. I'll never forget the first time that the day after, the first time, I realized Justin slept through the night, and he didn't do it for a long time. And I didn't really make the connection, but all day I kept saying, man, I feel great. I have so much energy. I mean, I feel good. And then I connected the dots that it was the first time he had slept a lengthy time through the night. So that's kind of a no-brainer. Okay, number 3, the record for being awake without having slept is either 11 days or 18 days, depending on, which one you were reading. And the person after the 18 days, I guess it was like some rocking chair marathon, or maybe that's just what he called it because he couldn't sleep. I don't know if it was a real rocking chair marathon. Like I said, was not fact checking, but he was not in good condition afterward, hallucinating, all kinds of crazy stuff. All right, number 4, I thought that this was kind of interesting that a dolphin, when they're asleep, they're only half their brains asleep at one time. And there was another animal, there was another animal I read that about, and that was so they could stay alert and not worry about prey. And then it's kind of interesting, number 5, that 12% of people dream in black and white, not color. Number 6 is, that feeling of when you're drifting off and then you like jerk, you like think you're falling. It's actually called a hypnic jerking. And scientists don't really know why we do it, but they do say that it's more common when people are younger, and then as you get older, you don't do it as much. Okay, so now I'm going to switch into some of the things that might actually be helpful to know, and they're interesting and maybe more useful. So number 7, and this, like I said, I don't know if this is a fact because in a way, if you believe this, it would kind of go against everything else, the way that lack of sleep negatively impacts you. But basically, believing that you slept well actually helps increase your productivity. And as I learned that not sleeping well, negatively impacts your productivity. So, I don't know. You might want to take that one with a grain of salt, but I thought that was interesting. Okay, number 8. That you burn more calories while you're sleeping than when you're sitting there watching TV. Again, you could make an argument either way. My take is because, I don't know, maybe you're munching when you're watching TV. You can't eat when you're sleeping, but it says burning more calories. So I think maybe your organs are working more. I don't know. That was interesting. All right, this one was very interesting and I think could be helpful. Number 9. Because I know people who say caffeine doesn't affect my sleep because I don't have a problem sleeping even after I've had caffeine. My husband is one of those people, but these are actually more recent studies. They found that even if you don't realize it, when you have caffeine equal to, I think, a double espresso, and I'm not a coffee drinker, so that sounds like a lot of caffeine. I don't know how that compares to other things, but within 3 hours of sleep, of going to bed, that even if you're not feeling it, it is affecting your body's production of melatonin, and it's affecting that circadian cycle, that clock, and it's resetting it. So it's the equivalent of losing about 40 minutes, 40 hours, oh my gosh, I need to sleep. 40 minutes of quality in your sleep that night. So that was, I think, interesting and helpful. Number 10, your pain tolerance is reduced when you're sleep deprived. I thought that was interesting. Number 11, that if you're hearing noises at night, even if they don't wake you up, it's actually negatively affecting your immune system. So that one I thought was interesting, and I was teasing Shane because he's been snoring more lately. Than he ever used to. He never was really like a big snorer, and he snores more now. And so after I read this, I said, it makes a lot of sense because I have been sick more since you started snoring. And he's like, I've been sick less. I was like, yeah, that's true. What's up with that? So anyway, number 12, that if you sleep on your tummy, if you sleep on your front, that it actually aids in digestion. Who knows, but interesting. And Number 13, I had no idea until I was doing this research, but you can actually hire yourself a sleep coach. So I think I've heard of coaches that maybe can help you with getting your baby to sleep, but you can actually hire an online, probably in person too, probably, definitely, but you can also hire an online sleep coach, which that was kind of cool. All right. Um, I kind of lost count, so I think I'm on 14. And I can't remember if I shared this, but I thought this was definitely helpful and interesting that if you have indoor plants, particularly I think an English ivy and like a perennial snake, whatever that is, that it can improve your air quality in the house and then improves your sleep environment, and that leads to better sleep. So that's a pretty easy kind of thing if you can keep it alive. I mean, I'm not, I've not been known to do that, so it's not really helpful for me, but maybe you got a green thumb. All right, and then finally, number 15, um, they have actually done research on if counting sheep helped you fall asleep, and they say it does not. So if you've been counting sheep, they always say that. Maybe it's not effective, and they actually say that counting your blessings is more effective than counting sheep. And I don't think they did a research on that, but that was one of the ideas for having a good night's sleep is before you go to bed, have a routine, and it may include counting your blessings. So, anyway, that's it on the series. I hope that you found something helpful within it. And I've had fun doing it. I appreciate you listening. I couldn't really see. I see Christy, Diana, Johanna, and Noelle. So I wanted to say hi. Thank you for listening, and have a good night.